Hello there.
This is where the fun begins.
Hey there guys, Unofficial Star Wars here, hope you're all doing well, and in this video we're going to be talking about some inside stuff with George Lucas and his main concern with Baby Yoda / Grogu. We're gonna hop right on into it. In this video we're going to be taking a read from the Direct's article. I'm gonna have their full article linked in the description down below for you guys to check out there, as well as they read how Star Wars avoided George Lucas's main concern with Baby Yoda. Star Wars mastermind George Lucas and creator had a notable concern about how Grogu was going to be handled in The Mandalorian, but Dave Filoni and co. luckily found a way around it. Filoni had taken on a major role in Star Wars storytelling, overseeing the live-action Mandoverse alongside with Jon Favreau. Lucas remains in close contact with Filoni, as well as Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy, and has even visited the sets of each Star Wars project under Disney's umbrella. Filoni was initially hesitant to include a baby of Yoda's species in The Mandalorian and in live action, as he didn't want to take away from the mystique of the Jedi Master, Yoda. Evidently, he acquiesced, and with Favreau, created one of the most popular characters in the Star Wars franchise, but it took some convincing, and the director needed to hear from his master on the idea as well. Grogu's abilities with the Force and how he chose to follow the Jedi path are known now, but there was a time when the creative minds behind the character didn't fully know the little guy's backstory. So Filoni turned to Lucas for advice on how to handle Star Wars' new mascot. That all being said, what was George Lucas's biggest worry for Grogu? In the Star Wars book, The Art of the Mandalorian Season 2, writer and director Dave Filoni reveals that he had discussions with George Lucas regarding Grogu. In those talks, the Star Wars creator wanted to ensure that the character had learned how to hone his Force abilities, saying that, in quote, "I had a talk with George at one point about the child, and his main concern was that the kid was to have a proper amount of training," ending the quote right there. Grogu is an interesting situation in Star Wars because, well, he's a baby. Not in the sense that he's a cash cow for endless merchandise, but really he is, or that he can be used in stories for the next thousands of years. Having a character who's Force sensitive and learned under the Jedi, but remains a baby for decades after the Order's demise of the Republic and the prequel trilogy is a unique concept, and a believability of what he can do hinges entirely on what he's learned before. Luckily, the team behind The Mandalorian managed to steer clear of Lucas's biggest worry about introducing a baby version of Yoda, and it seems this will continue into the third season and going forward with the Mandoverse. How The Mandalorian avoided George Lucas's Grogu concern overall. It makes a complete sense that Lucas would find it critical that Grogu has proper training. This goes for both the past and the present. For Grogu, it demonstrated such power as to lift a beast or heal injuries. He would need to have been taught how to make a use of his overall abilities with the Force. While his exile may have hindered his growth, it's imperative that the kid continues to learn if he's going to grow beyond his helpless state and become a capable warrior and, evidently, a teacher at some point going forward. Basically, Grogu is the opposite of Rey in those aspects. He's a species that's naturally gifted with the Force, but without training and discipline, there's no chance of him evolving as a Jedi. Filoni and Favreau have followed the principles of becoming a Jedi with the character, emphasizing the need for him to devote himself and take the time needed to harness his abilities. As Luke tells Mando before taking Grogu, talent without training is simply nothing. While Grogu has left Luke's tutelage behind for the time being, that doesn't mean his training is over. Mando undoubtedly has a lot to instill upon his rich son ahead of Season 3, even if it isn't of the Jedi variety. Grogu, strandingly, the line between two worlds, one of the Force and one of the Mandalorian, will make his growth going forward feel even richer, whilst honoring Lucas's hopes for the character moving forward. This isn't the only key piece of advice Lucas instilled on the current team at Lucasfilm, with the Star Wars creator even having a major influence on the crew's design philosophy overall as well. George Lucas's greatest Star Wars lesson overall is to simplify. As it turns out, Lucas had an indirect influence on a decision made for The Mandalorian's Chapter 15, The Believer, as revealed by concept artist Doug Chiang, thanks to the set visit for Rogue One, in that full quote saying that an early idea was that the Imperial drivers were wearing the same armor as the AT-AT commanders from The Empire Strikes Back. Ultimately, we decided to go back with the tank troopers from Rogue One. a design chosen by George Lucas on a Rogue One pre-production set visit. Concept artist Doug Chiang explained in the book's foreword that the Mandalorian's art department continues to follow the guiding principles of design Lucas established for Star Wars years ago. In that quote saying that, "So what makes a strong Star Wars design? The guidelines established by George Lucas are simple. Design as if a child could draw it. Design for the silhouette, design for the iconic logo. Keep it simple, give it a personality, and make it believable." Ending the quote right there. It's really cool to see these small things of that George Lucas still does have involvement with Star Wars overall. To some capacity, he still has a say in it. George Lucas proves that he is still the master of Star Wars. Darth Vader, Yoda, R2-D2, the Mandalorian, name the Star Wars character and there's an iconic silhouette. Each human, alien, and droid has a distinct look that makes them instantly recognizable. The Disney Plus intro for each piece of new Star Wars content illustrates this very well. There's a simplicity to the designs in the franchise, but the guiding principles of its creator have ensured that they all remain relevant decades after their creations even. It's incredible that even after a decade has elapsed since the ink dried on Lucasfilm's sale, George Lucas continues to have such a remarkable influence on this franchise. It hasn't all been very smooth. The maker originally planned to be deeply involved with the sequel trilogy, but Disney threw out his story treatments and the writers and directors of the films didn't really necessarily follow up with his saga of true form. The sequels were originally written into books by George Lucas, and he said, "Hey, I had the sequel trilogy written out for you guys if you ever decide to do that, here it is." And they went ahead, threw that out the window, and gave us something entirely different. Whether it's good or bad is up for you to decide. This largely turned Lucas away from his old company, and he's very much taken a backseat since, but even his short set visits have yielded great results. Who better to pick out of a design for a new trooper in Rogue One than the man who started it all, George Lucas? And the choice later proved beneficial for The Mandalorian, as the right design already existed for the situation needed. During a set visit to Solo, a Star Wars story, George Lucas suggested during the scene in Lando's closet on the Millennium Falcon that Han wouldn't care to put a cape back on the rack, he would just drop it, and that small action was really Han Solo as a character, the one that George originally intended for back in 1977 with Harrison Ford in A New Hope. When it comes to Jedi's wisdoms and explanations about the Force, George Lucas is naturally the man to go. Dave Filoni has gone on epic rants about the Force himself, and everything he says he learned specifically from George Lucas while making Star Wars: The Clone Wars animated show. George Lucas stated during the 40th anniversary panel at Star Wars Celebration back in 2017 that he does look at Filoni as one of his kids, and the latter has done everything he can to remain faithful to his mentor's vision. Some overall very wise words there as we conclude this article here. That is where the article concludes. As I had mentioned, I have this full article linked in the description down below for you guys to check out there as well. There's a lot to kind of just take in and digest here, I think, from this overall article into the regards of George Lucas, what he likes, what he doesn't like about Disney's Star Wars' vision, and his big concerns with it as well. Of course, that big concern being that Baby Yoda would need to have proper training. He couldn't just go ahead and be a know-it-all, do-it-all type of character. He's going to have some struggle, and that's something that we've already began to see a little bit in the Book of Boba Fett, as he had a training sequence with Luke Skywalker. More scenes like that is something I think that we're in store for with the third season of The Mandalorian and also the Ahsoka Tano show, both coming in 2023 to Disney Plus. We can't wait for it. We're going to be talking about it, everything, all of it here on the channel regarding all the different leaks, news, rumors, theories, and breakdowns here on the channel for those two shows of the third season of The Mandalorian and on also the Ahsoka show, but also all types of other Star Wars related stuff. I want to know of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. I'd absolutely love to hear you guys all think here about George Lucas and his relationship with Disney Star Wars, his says that he does and doesn't get within the overall company. I'd love to hear what you guys all think in the comments down below. Of course, this has been Unofficial Star Wars. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. May the Force be with you as always. Peace out.